tears, your eyes running through the night. Only take some back, always out of sight, traveling through the night. Run, you can run, but you'll never hide. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming, you're running. The walls are coming.
Good evening. It's Sunday night. It's a balmy Sunday night. It is 6 days ticking down till the start of the Premier League season. It is the final on the ball of the summer before Extra Time Fan Zone returns with full vengeance to the phone-in show next week, post our wonderful, shocking victory over title challengers Arsenal, he says with a glee smile in his face. So obviously the On the Ball show is a bit more of an intimate affair. We've had different people on every week during the summer to talk about the week's Wolves news. We're going to tell you what the subjects are in a second. Before we get started on that, I do have to say, of course, a massive big thank you to the sponsors of our Sunday night show, Creation Wolf. They deliver the industry's and latest, most advanced digital solutions, taking your brand online presence and digital capabilities to the next level. You can find them on creationwolf.com. They did the intro for the video for me. They're great on so many things, and they do a lot to support us. And the link's also in the description below. So we're welcomed this evening by Nathan. How are you doing, mate? Good to have you back. Getting limbered part of the season ahead of extra time shows.
Yeah, cheers, Dave. Good to be back. I think you hit the nail on the head with Arsenal. I think before yesterday's game, we may well have been thinking about a shock upset, and maybe it's just put a little bit of a reality check in place. So, yeah, I think we may have been getting a little bit carried away, thinking, top four, here we come. But friendlies do that, don't they? Friendlies come and go, and I think you take them with a pinch of salt. But I think yesterday's result was certainly a reality check for many Wolves fans.
And we're definitely going to dig into that. And we're also welcomed back by Lewis, who, as you see, done a few bits and pieces during the summer with some analytics and stuff for us, and getting a little bit more involved in those sort of things. Lewis, great to have you back on tonight, talking live.
Yeah, it's great to be back, Dave. Like you said, I enjoyed that over the summer. It was really good. And yeah, I'm really excited for the start of the season. I think, as Nat said, maybe the game yesterday put into perspective the realities of the squad. But generally, I think you can never be too reactive. I think we had a good preseason when we were in America and things looked good. But also, yesterday was a tough game and it didn't go how we wanted it to. But that shouldn't take away too much from what we've seen. I feel like each game that we play, especially under the new system that I'm seeing, just building up a picture of what I expect the season to look like. And, including yesterday's game, it just adds to that. And I think we won't be as good as maybe some people were expecting after maybe the Leipzig game especially, but we won't be as bad as maybe some people will be fearing after yesterday's result either.
Absolutely. We're going to stuck into that. If the producer is watching, Scott Dram, he says, Emma, if I don't know if my emails for a content writer are coming through to you. Obviously, we've put a little advert out if you want to get involved in some video, if you want to do some writing for the channel. We've been overwhelmed with so many responses for that, which is absolutely fantastic. But hopefully she'll answer you in the chat, and she's heard that. Before we get started, guys, leave you in the comment section below. There's already nearly 170 of you watching live, which is fantastic. I know thousands more of you watch it back on catch up, and a couple thousand more on the podcast as well, which is fantastic. So leave where you're watching from in the tonight in the world in the chat. We'll feature a couple of those. Lewis and then Nathan, just before we get stuck into it, and I will tell everyone what we're going to be covering off tonight, so you're all well aware. We're going to be talking, of course, about Pedro Neto to Chelsea, getting Lewis's and Nathan's thoughts on that, including my own. Gary O'Neill's new contract, Hugo Bueno's loan. We'll be digging into obviously what their thoughts of the summer pre-season, and specifically onto the Vallecano friendly defeat 1-0 yesterday. A little update on the Content Creators Cup, and we'll be looking ahead to the Premier League and Arsenal, and also at the end answering any questions that you may have. Now, Lewis, before we get stuck in, and then obviously we'll come to you, Nate, what have you been up to over the summer? Because you've been jet setting, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been away a couple of times this summer. I've been with my partner Amy and my family. The trips, but so I graduated from university as well, which was a big thing for me. So yeah, it's been quite a busy summer so far, but I'm definitely looking forward back to getting back into the routine of football on a Saturday, on the weekend. But yeah, it's been a nice summer, been a nice break.
A nice summer, a nice break. And what about you, Nathan? You been away anywhere?
We popped down to Cornwall for a week, and I think we're probably going to maybe Lisbon or Porto maybe next month. We haven't decided yet, but yeah, I've just been really busy with work and a kind of football link. I work for a car dealership, and we supply kiddie harriers with cars for. I won't go into the contract details, but Phil Brown and his assistant manager. So Phil's just, funnily enough, rung me about 10 minutes before I come on, saying he's got a bald tyre. Can you bring it in tomorrow? So the excitement of real football edge. But we're really involved with kiddie harriers. So it's a local club to where I work, and it's really important. So I try to get to some of their matches when I can. They're not quite in my bloodstream.
Are you in now, kiddie harriers in now?
They're National League North. So they've gone
dropped down that far?
Yeah, they've gone down from the National League. They're in National League North. But funny enough, for a club that size, it doesn't really make much difference in terms of attendances or, business partners. Everything pretty much stays on a parity because it's not that vital that, you're playing Maidstone United instead of Oxford United. So it's a nice little club, and they're doing well. I think they're going to be, it's a good model. And Phil Brown is, I think it's a good calibre manager at that level to have in.
Oh, absolutely. So then we've got over 200. If you're watching, if you're enjoying it, please smash that like button, and do not forget that if you want to join in the conversation, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button for less than a second, and that will mean that you can join in the conversation. There's always mini debates going on in the chat as well, and I'm trying to do my best to keep an eye on everything. So, Lewis, Pedro Neto to Chelsea. Discuss.
Yeah, I think this was the one that everybody expected at the end of the last season. It was always the one that people had earmarked him as the one that maybe people felt would be comfortable leaving as well if we had to sell him, and we did have to sell. The fee, I think, is an interesting point to me. I think with the fee that Chelsea have previously paid for players, maybe with it being Chelsea, we could have got a bit more. But at the same time, you look at the other clubs interested. It looks like Tottenham and Chelsea were the main two who showed the interest and made offers. I don't think Tottenham are the kind of club that go into bidding wars. They set their price, and if it's not, if you don't accept it, then they're happy to walk away. So Chelsea, they're not against anyone, as we saw they were with Caicedo, who they were against Liverpool for, and that bidding war occurred with Brighton, and that's why the fee got so high. Same with Lavia. Liverpool also wanted him. So I think we could have got more if another club had shown as much interest in Neto as Tottenham, but it just didn't fall that way. And the fee is still good. He's a player that I expect will pick up injuries over the course of the season if he plays. But at the same time, with the depth.
Lewis, we've got some breaking news. That's just Bobby Smith has got. Chelsea have given Neto squad number 2,549 for the coming season. That just made me laugh. Sorry, mate.
No, that's what I was going on to, actually, the depth. I mean, in that right wing position, they've got Palmer, who's obviously had the best season. I think he was probably my player of the season ahead of Foden. They've also got Madueke, who I think is a good young talent. They've got Nkunku, who can play on the right. Sterling, again, a player who can play there. So there's a lot of depth there. And whether he plays, whether he starts, he's the starting right wing, will be interesting to me. Or he can also play on the left. But I think the deal is probably it could have been better, but I'm happy with it overall.
Nathan, obviously, I'm sure you've got your thoughts on this, Pedro Neto. I mean, it's fair to say, I mean, discussing towards the end of last season, we were all thinking, Pedro's probably going to go this year. Obviously, the Portuguese squad, he played a bit. He came back. He played a little bit in the last game for Wolves in pre-season, RB Leipzig, where he came on and was dazzling for the 15 minutes that he was on. He looked amazing. I love Pedro Neto. He's always played with a smile on his face. He's always had so much respect for the city, for the club, for the fans. Brilliant attitude. He travelled over from Braga, as a young boy. He leaves as a man. His statement on Instagram that he left today, I thought was almost brought a little tear to my eyes. It's not quite on the same level as Nuno or Neves going, or Raul, really. But even because he obviously only really played 42% of the time that he was here, which is, he played 111 times for Wolves. He could have played 250 games, really, if he was fully fit. He scored 11 goals, obviously created so much excitement. Always be remembered for that goal against the West Birmingham Baggy Boys in that Black Country derby, where it got us going when he ran up the pitch and scored. We saw a lot of that. Never seemed to get last more than 10 games without breaking down. But he clearly loves the club, and his words, I think, were very wonderful. And Matt Hobbs spoke as well about how he didn't think he really wanted to go. But it's a good move for him to go to Chelsea, who are obviously got high ambitions, spending a lot of money in European football, and also the fact that 54 million pounds for Wolves, but it's a good business for Wolves, is what Matt Hobbs is saying. I would have wanted 60 personally. I think Lewis is on the same thing. Would have liked to have got a little bit more, but for an injured player who's not played that much, 51 million plus add-ons, it's a record fee for Wolves, isn't it? Well, I mean, what's your take on the whole situation?
Yeah, I think you've summed it up very eloquently there, Dave. That's the big issue, is the injury record. There's no doubt he would have gone for 60, 65. We've seen players, like Caicedo, 100 million plus, same sort of age, same sort of levels of excitement on the pitch, but it's his injury record that have let him down over the years. And like, he could have played a couple of 100 games for Wolves, but there aren't many players. I've been a season golfer for 30, 40 years, whatever it is now. There aren't many players that get you off your seat. Players like Adama Traore in flashes, that bit where you get the ball and all of a sudden you're leaning forward and you're full of excitement. What's going to happen now? And Pedro was one of those players, but it was all too infrequent. And I think in detriment to Pedro, he was 100 miles an hour, and I think that was part of the injury problem. Adama was told to slow down, take a little bit off his game. And I think Pedro was the same. We'd see him belting down that wing, and sometimes he'd pull the hamstring, and you think he just needed to ease off the brakes a little bit, ease off the accelerator a little bit, and just come back a little bit off the sideline. But there's no doubt he's a wonderful player. And we all hate seeing players like that go. But that's our business model now. That's the way Wolves are as a club. We're not going to just keep buying players and hold on to them as they mature and develop. We are going to have to sell them on. We've seen it, as you said, Dave, with the likes of Neves and a few others last season. We let them go. Kilman this season, I wasn't too perturbed. I think he was actually holding that defence back in terms of his defence style. We need a little bit more pace at the back. And no doubt we'll come on to that a little bit later. But with Pedro, yeah, we're all gutted to see him go, and I'm guessing, especially the estate agents on the corner of here, because he lived just opposite me on the park, so they're gonna have to sell his house and get someone else in. But he always had a smile, always had a hello whenever I walked past, and he was a great guy. So yeah, it'll be a massive miss for the club, but it's a good business, I think, for a player that injury prone. That kind of income, I think you've only got to take your hats off to Matt Hobbs and the club for getting good revenue, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I met him a couple of times. I had the honour of meeting him at the foundation do last year. I actually met him as well by chance. we was doing our recording, which we were doing our recording of our post match, and it was he just happened to be there, and he came over. I remember it, it was a bit of a coup for me. I was thinking like getting him on the old channel and talk very, very briefly. But I don't know if you can see that on the screen there. If you can see it, that was there at the foundation do, which I was honoured to be invited to. And he came over. He was with Kuna, absolutely wonderful. And then this one was when he came over. I was with Boston Brian and Jogger Josh at the time. We were doing the post-match instant reaction after the game, and they came out, and he was great. He come over for like a few seconds, posed for a picture, said hello, said well done, and he was always absolutely fantastic as a person. And he goes to Chelsea. You have to wish him well. The one thing I think we can guarantee is that he's going to get a very warm reception when he comes back to Molineux, unlike a certain Mateus Nunes last year, who, pushed for a move, we sold, and then got booed every time he touched the ball in a Man City shirt, got took off at half-time, and it helped us get that first win. Wolves do play Chelsea first game of the season at Molineux. I'm not sure. I remember when Jota left, we played Liverpool really quickly afterwards, and they didn't play him against Wolves because, Jota had been with us for a while as well, and he didn't play that first game. Whether or not Pedro will play or he'll come on, but whatever happens, if he does come on, he does play, he will get a lot of appreciation, I think. From the Wolves fans for his attitude, the way he speaks, the way he played, and always gave 110% when he was on the pitch, Lewis.
Yeah, for sure, Dave. I think his attitude was it was the right way to go about stuff. When there's interest in you as a player, you're always aware that your career span is limited, and these opportunities don't come around too often. I know Chelsea are in a tough moment at the minute, but it's still Chelsea. It's still one of the biggest clubs in the country. So when he heard the interest is there, he's always going to be eager to explore that. But he went about it the right way and let the club take care of it, let them get what they wanted. And I think Matt Hobbsy, he said that it was just too good of an offer for the club to turn down. And once he's agreed personal terms with Chelsea, then it's all ready to go, and there's no hard feelings there. As you said, it was very different to Mateus Nunes last summer, and I think maybe the context is different because it was towards the end of the summer and there's a more pressing deadline, but still the way he handled it last season, it was the wrong way to go about it, definitely.
Absolutely. So yeah, Neto's gone. We're going to talk obviously about spending that money in a little bit. It looks like Hugo Bueno is on his way to, I think, Feyenoord on a loan, Nathan. Nothing official yet, but it's been reported. He's one that has been in and around the Wolves squad. Are you a little bit surprised with Nathan and then Lewis about Hugo Bueno being sent out, or is he just, he didn't get a lot of games on last year, did he?
Yeah, he didn't, but we've always spoke about the lack of depth at fullbacks. We're starting to get better as a club now, and I think as we come onto the friendly match yesterday, one of the things we noticed was the strength in depth. That the bench is much stronger these days. But for a young lad who was making good progress, I am a little bit surprised that we've sent him out on loan. Gary O'Neill must have he must have a plan at that side of the field. If we can keep players we've got there fit, then we should have enough strength and depth. But personally, I'd have kept him on. I'm thinking it's a surprise that he's gone. I really think that I'd like to have kept him.
Lewis, you are someone that obviously gets to meet some of the players from time to time. You might have probably spoken to Pedro Neto a lot more than what I have, and probably Hugo Bueno as well. Are you a bit surprised about Bueno, or do you think it's a good move for him? Because you're really someone that studies the market and the players and stuff like that in a lot of depth.
Yeah, I think the loan to Feyenoord makes sense to me for Hugo Bueno because from what I saw of him last season, he's now a player who is ready to really accelerate in his development. He needs to play week in, week out, and he's going to get the opportunity to do that in Feyenoord. He will be there starting left back for sure. So, and he's in a good league for young talents. The Eredivisie is always producing these kind of players who are young and ready to then come back to move into kind of the top 5 leagues in Europe. So I think for him personally, it's the best move he could have made, because he wasn't going to start ahead of Ait-Nouri, and I think the club made a good decision to not sell Ait-Nouri this summer as well. So he wasn't going to become the starting left back at Wolves, but he's going to be there in Feyenoord, the starting left back. Maybe for the club, as Nat said, we need that depth. But I think with the shift to how Gary's looking at how he'd like to play with the 4-4-2, Totti is a player who I think is capable of playing left back. That's how he used to play when last season, when we had the ball, he'd shifted to that left back position whilst Ait-Nouri went forward. So he's definitely capable of it. And I think it probably suits him a bit more having somebody behind him. If he is playing in a back 4, having that extra cover just behind. So I think the depth is still okay, but I appreciate he's not a natural left back as Bueno is. So it's difficult, because I think he had to play this season if he's going to really kick on. But we needed the depth, and whether or not it turns out to be a good choice, we'll see. But one thing I am very happy about is it's a straight loan, and there's no option to buy, because Bueno is a homegrown player, which, as we've said in the past, there it's really important. As a Spanish player who's homegrown to England, he's really valuable to the club. So I'm very happy that it is a straight loan, and he'll come back next summer.
Just come back, make sure, and something that Wolves have, used the player loan market really, really well, both incoming in the past and outgoing. Obviously, we've seen plenty of Wolves players go out on loan. Now we're going to talk about the transfer window as a whole, and because obviously the thing that I want to delve into now and get both of your guys' thoughts. Look, Kilman's gone, 40,000 to 40 million. I think we all agree, really nice guy, Kilman. Not sure he was a captain, but he, vocally on the pitch, we got used to Cody and all of that sort of captaincy. So he's a lot quieter. We talked about Kilman with his family being down in London, so it all, the money made really good sense. Pedro Neto's gone out. That's another 54 million. I expect that there'll be some fringe players that'll definitely go out. So that's a lot of money that over the last 2 seasons. Last season we had to do it to break even. We were already about 20 million up before we started this season because of where we were. The Kilman money puts us in a really good position that we didn't have to sell unless someone came in with some really good money for the likes of Neto. Now we've got another 54 million. Wolves transfer wise, we've got shed loads of money really that we can. Okay, not online. It's not hundreds of millions, but it's a lot. It's a good chunk of money that they can invest. Now look. We paid £3 million for Jurgen Strand-Larsen, and we want to talk a little bit about him in a minute as well. But there's 20 odd million that's got to be paid next year, so some of that's got to be kept back for next season. But Gary O'Neill and Matt Hobbs have both spoken today about the transfer market. Gary O'Neill, Matt Hobbs has had this to say about it. Working to replace Neto, he said, we've been working on options and targets, and the work keeps going, but we do that work for every position in the team, because like this, you never know when an offer comes in, which for the football club you can't turn down. The work's underway. Me and Gary have sat down several times since, but we're sitting down beforehand talking about it, because I think we thought there was a good chance that this would happen. We had a busy start to the window, a bit of a lull while everything has settled down. The window's been a bit funny. It's been a bit pretty quiet. So I think once a couple of big transfers happen within the Premier League and there's some money available, you'll start to see almost like a domino effect, things happen. He said it's safe to say that next couple of weeks we'll all be working tirelessly to make sure when we get to the end of the window, we're happy with the squad we've got and it's well balanced as we can make it. and we give the support for the players here who've been brilliant in pre-season, the tools for Gary and the staff that they need. Gary's also mentioned that, you know, that they won't necessarily be looking for a direct replacement for Neto. They'll be looking for like 2 or 3 positions. We also need to realise that Rodrigo Gomez has come in. Obviously, similar sort of player, not exactly. You know, he's sort of like almost like when Jota went, Pedro Neto was behind him. We've got Gomez. Chiquinho has come back, looks hungry, looks really keen to impress. He was great before he went out on loan. He's come back. He looks really hungry. And we're talking about the loan market. We bought in 4 players. Okay, Tommy Doyle was here last year, loan to buy. We bought him. But Chiquinho's come back. He hopefully might stay. Geddes has come back off loan as well. And Yerson Mosquera's come back off loan. And to me, looking at the way he's lined up against RB Leipzig and again at the weekend against Rayo Vallecano, it looks to me that the starting centre-back positions are going to be Yerson Mosquera and Totti Gomez. Nathan?
I'm not sure about that. I think you're right. I think it is probably looking that way. But for me, we're lacking a bit of leadership without Dawson at the back. We've lost Kilman, and as you said, Dave, Kilman wasn't the most vocal of captains when, you know, we've been used to the likes of Ince and Cody, you know, and those more angry type characters at the back who are, you know, you can hear from the stands. But Kilman will still be a loss. He may not have been everyone's cup of tea, but he was a solid defender and he'll still be a loss at the back. So to then start with those 2 instead of Dawson, I think it sounds like a recipe for disaster. I think the friendly yesterday, which will, again, Chris, I keep saying, go on, sorry.
Chris Humphries is kind of agreeing with you there. I'm going to get, it'd be interesting after you've analysed this to get Lewis's and then my thoughts, because he doesn't think we have the players to play a back 4, but, you know, he's not the manager who sees them in training every day, is he? Well,
he's not. And I mean, Chris has got a point that, you know, we have got wing backs rather than full backs potentially, and Semedo and Aït-Nouri, they're great at bombing forward. And actually their tackling and defending's got better. Both of them, I think, in the last couple of seasons. Certainly Semedo was a lot more solid last season. And Aït-Nouri, when he's called upon, can put in that tackle. But yeah, I think Chris makes a valid point. Have we got the players to make a back 4? We want to be more expansive. We want to get the ball forward quicker. And we want to be on the front foot, which I think, you know, it's clear to see. It's evident in the last 3 or 4 friendly games. That's the way Gary O'Neill's going to set up. But for me, I come back to that lack of leadership at the back. And I just feel with Totti and Mosquera at the back, we could be, you know, there didn't feel like there was a voice on the pitch yesterday sometimes. And I think that's when we were getting caught behind. And there was you know, Vallecano set out a certain way. They got the goal, and then they set up base basically to say, come and try and get through us, and we couldn't. So for me, I think it'd be a big mistake, those 2 setting up. You know, who knows? You might go back to a back 5 and put the 3 with, as Louis said, put Totti back in that left centre back. I think, yeah, I'm nervous about a 4. Exactly, certainly with our first 2 fixtures, we just don't want to get a battering for the first 2, because we've been there before, and it's demoralising.
Interesting thoughts. Lewis, what's your take on the obviously the transfer window generally and the loanees coming back? But let's talk about the first of all the what looks like going to be the 2 centre backs, Yerson Mosquera and Totti Gomez. What's your take on? Do you agree with Nathan and Chris, or are you a little bit more positive?
Well, I think trying to transition to a back 4 has been an issue for Wolves since 2021, when Nuno tried it a few times in his last season during the pandemic. It's something that every manager has at least attempted since they've come in, including Nuno and since. And it just seems that for a variety of reasons that we just can't seem to get it nailed on at 4 at the back. And I thought generally our play, when everybody was fit last season, was very good with the kind of hybrid system that Gary used with the five defenders, but then, you know, out of possession, but then 4 we're in possession. I didn't have an issue with that, and I thought it served us really well until probably you know, around springtime when the attacking options got injured. So I didn't really have an issue with that. I thought we scored enough goals last season to warrant, okay, 5 at the back. It doesn't restrict us too much going forwards. I think transitioning is always very difficult. As I said, every manager has tried and failed so far to turn Wolves into a back four side. I'm not convinced fully by Totti and Yerson. I think Dawson would offer that that leadership that Nat was talking about. I think Totti is underrated as a leader. I read an Athletic article earlier in the week that said Totti in the small-sided games in training that they played this four-team game where it's very intense and it's 3 sides against 1 team and they're all attacking. And Gary O'Neill himself said Totti is the best leader in those games. If you have Totti on your side, you're going to win. That's what Gary himself said. So I think he's underrated. Maybe he's not as vocal and maybe you don't see it as much, but definitely in the dressing room, I think it's very easy to glaze over Totti and say he's not a leader when I think he's quite an important figure at the back. But it's just whether the pair of Yerson and Totti have the ability as a pair to play that with the attacking fullbacks, which we have in Aït-Nouri, who's very attacking, and also Semedo, who had his best season playing a lot further forward. So I am a bit concerned in terms of will we get exposed, especially against the bigger sides. Arsenal are going to attack, and always in the first game of the season, they're going to be very on it. They're going to be, fully fit and focused to get off to the best start possible. And then we obviously play Chelsea, who have an abundance of attacking talent. But I think if we had Dawson yesterday instead of maybe Totti or Yerson, maybe we wouldn't have looked as weak. But generally, I thought yesterday defensively we were okay. Apart from that goal, which was a great goal, they didn't look like they any threat to us at all. But as Nat said, they didn't look like they wanted to either. They'd scored their goal, and as he said, they were very much okay. We've scored. Come and try and beat us now. And we
you know what? It's interesting because I take the total opposite view of this. I've watched every single game. I've stayed up and done these from late night watch-alongs. I've watched the whole of every single preseason game, every single one, every single minute of every single preseason game. I watched the whole of the RB Leipzig game when Totti and Mosquera did start together. They were immense. The RB Leipzig are a Champions League team. The way that they're both really, really fast. Yerson Mosquera, to me, looks like a Rolls Royce at the back. I've met him not very long ago. He's a tall lad, very calm, very well spoken. He's not built like a brick, thingy, but he's very athletic. He's very composed. The way he plays the ball out, watching him yesterday, the way they were bringing the ball composed, they do not look as a pair like they're panicking. They look like, to me, that they fit together for me and they're in control. Totti Gomez is underrated. He's a great player who can bring the ball out as well. Yeah, every single defense, it doesn't matter who you are in the country, you can make a mistake. You can make a mistake without any shadow of a doubt. But I looked at the two of them together against RB Leipzig, and they literally mopped up everything, And yesterday against Raya Vallecano, aside from the fact that wonder goal, really, which I think Jose Sarr probably should have done better with, because I think he caught him really off guard, and that was not really their fault. I don't really see us was troubled by them either, really. The problem that we had yesterday against Raya Vallecano was the fact that once they got their goal, they sat. And the problem that we had is that, again, we couldn't break this team down that sat. And that's a problem that Gary O'Neill's got to solve this year, teams that sit against us. RB Leipzig opened up against us, and we saw the amount of play that the moves that we did, and it all started. That third goal started from them central two passing it out, and how we played it. So, I get that people are going to be a bit concerned because, let's face it, we're transitioning from a back five. But it was boring as hell last year watching us, especially towards the end. It was boring. It was a bit boring yesterday, if I was to be honest, in the stadium. But it was. I like the fact that, do we want to turn into England and just sit and wait, and sit back, or do we want our team to be braver going forward and play football? We might concede a few more goals doing that, but I think we saw in pre-season that we'll score more. So I actually think it's going to be very interesting against Arsenal, because they're going to come out the blocks. They're going to have a fervent Emirates that are going to, expect. I think it's a good time to play Arsenal. I think it'll be a really interesting test against Arsenal, followed up by Chelsea. And I think Sutty said this last week on the show. He said we have to be not panic if the early, he was on about Arteta with Arsenal, how he was trying to change the way that Arsenal played, and the fans were getting on his back and saying this guy doesn't know what he's doing. The defence aren't any good, and they stuck with him. And look where Arsenal are now. Someone's got to. If Gary O'Neill wants to play a back four, he has not played at any point in pre-season, not one game has he played a back five. This back five malarkey, we're not going to be playing a back five. Maybe it'll be a plan B in certain games, but we're not playing a back five. He's going for a back four. He's going for it. And don't forget, Gary O'Neill has not had a pre-season to work with any of his teams until this season. So I think you're going to have to bear with it. I do agree. I think we need to bring in another centre-back. I think we do need another centre-back. I also think we need a full-back. And I think that's the areas where they're going to look to bring people in. I think probably another winger. I think we need another striker as well, to be honest. But guys, honestly, let's not panic about too much about things, because I'm not panicking about Yerson Mosquera and Totti Gomez. They're fast, they're quick, and when they've needed to play recovering defensive plays, they have. The other thing is the way Wolves have been playing. If you've watched Lamina, if you've watched when Dor was on there, they drop into the middle of that. They move across. Lamina will drop back. Dor's done it the same, almost like a quarterback. He collects the ball and how they're moving up. This is all patterns of play that they've been working on. It wasn't great yesterday. It was disappointing. But I actually think that they're going to be quite good. So that's my take on it. Transfer window, Nathan, what do we need to do?
Well, I think you've just said it, Dave. I think there are, it's. I still think we need that centre back with experience. Dawson's not getting any younger, and if he's not going to be starting games this season, then we need to bring that fourth option in at centre back. So I think you're quite right. They are going to stick to a four. It's quite obvious. I've watched the games as well, and the four's definitely worked up until yesterday. It was brilliant. It's been excellent this season. And the five, the last time the five worked was really on the Nuno, when we had Cody sitting deep in that kind of sweeper role in the five. But let's transition to the four. Let's make it a bit more exciting this season, because like you, it was boring as hell, some of those games last season. Now that might come from, and this is why the transfer window could be vital this season, that might have come from lack of depth, because the amount of kids we had to chuck into the party last season, certainly towards those last 10 games when we were really struggling. And it was obvious they were completely out of their depth, except, so I don't think that's going to happen this season. I don't think we're going to see, Silva, when Silva was thrust into it and he wasn't ready, Silva, I think is useless, and I'd like to see him gone. But in terms of the transfer window for us, in terms of our business, I think that centre back is imperative. The full back is imperative, and as you said, Dave, the wings I'm not too fussed, because I think we got some good loans coming back with Chiquinho and Guedes could fit in there.
Do you think both of them will still be here when the window shuts? Would you keep it?
I don't know, because I think Guedes has got a point to prove. I think Guedes was an expensive signing. I don't think he's gone out and done anything, and I don't think the club are going to be able to recoup much for him at this present moment. So for me, I'd like to see him have maybe a good half a season. If we get to the next window and he's been good, then maybe then he's in the window. But at the moment, what realistically could you pick up for him? 10 million tops.
Well, he'd probably go on another loan again, wouldn't he? Really?
Yeah, we can't keep affording to do that because they get aged. You know, that asset becomes older, and then you've got another year on to sell him, and you're going to get less for him. So, no, I'd keep the players that have come back, give them a chance in the team. So wings, I'm not too fussed about recruiting for, but I do agree that striker role, we can't just rely on one. Yes, Kuna will come back, but maybe more as a 10 rather than 9. I think
we saw him in the first game against West Ham.
Yeah,
he was absolutely sensational. Kuna was, the way he got him playing, it was almost like a free role he got, and he looked really good. And obviously, then he picked up that minor hamstring. According to the injury report that's come today, Lemina, you know, it was only a bit of cramp he went off with, and apparently Jurgen Strand Larsen had a bit of a groin issue.
Yeah.
But Kuna could be back in contention to play a role against Arsenal. Lewis, your thoughts on the rest of the transfer window? Also interesting to see your take on the other loanees, Chiquinho and Guedes. What would you do? What's your expectation?
Yeah, I'll start with the loan save. I think now Neto's been sold, I fully expect Chiquinho to stay. I think he's a great option and someone I really rate. I think when he first arrived, I would have kept him the full time. I don't think loaning him out has really benefited us, other than, you know, he's personally developed. But I think he could have had that impact at the club. I really like Chiquinho a lot. I think he's a really aggressive player and somebody I really want in the team. Guedes is an interesting one for me because I think sometimes that there are players, especially from abroad, who just can't handle the Premier League. It's just too intense. The weather is tough, and the culture is too different from what they're used to. So it may be a case where that it will get to October, November time, and the sun has gone away, and everything is dreary and cold and very English, and it might be too much for him. But as Nat said, what's the alternative? Do we sell him? There's not going to be much interest in him. If we loan him and he comes back, it's a year less on his contract. So that's a year's worth of value down. Maybe he'll have a good loan if we're lucky, but he's been back to Benfica, his original club, and he didn't do it there. He's been back to Spain. It was all right there, but Villarreal haven't come knocking down the door to come and sign him. So what is the alternative if we don't keep him? And I think that's where maybe
that issue's changed a little bit, though. Do you think, because obviously coming back to Wolves now, it's almost like a brand new club for him, really, because obviously all the backroom staff has changed, the manager's changed. You know, he's been away. He's a bit older, probably a bit more mature, probably learnt a lot about life and all of that sort of jazz. He might be in the mindset now where he thinks, you know what, I want to play in the Premier League. Gary O'Neill's got a real knack of trying to build this squad and this togetherness and to feel people important and valued. And he might just be the right type of manager to get the best out of Guedes. And he's probably got a point to prove. I'd love to see him succeed. I think a bit like with Fabio Silva, like last year, we all really got behind Fabio. It was like, come on. But now we're all like, can you just leave with your braided hair? You know, what your My Little Pony hair and whatever it is. But like Guedes, I think there's a hunger there. And I think that's a lot to do with Gary O'Neill. Chiquinho looks hungry as well. Would you like to see them both stay there?
Well, Chiquinho, he's a player I would love to stay. I wouldn't contemplate a loan, and I definitely wouldn't sell him to Sporting Lisbon. I mean, you saw what happened to Pedro Gonçalves when he went back to Portugal. I think the same thing could happen with Chiquinho. He's such an exciting player. Guedes, as I said, Dave, you look at the alternatives, and maybe you have to make the best of a bad situation, and that's what it is at the moment for Guedes. Coming back from unsuccessful loans, he was unsuccessful in his first stint at the club. Maybe, as you said, Gary's a really good man manager. I think Gary, he can really work with players, and the team respond to him in a way that we didn't really see with Lopetegui or even Large to an extent. So I'd be happy to keep him, but January is when I would try and make my decision. I think you have to make a decision as quickly as you can with Guedes. He's that contract is running down, and he's only getting older. He's probably the next move he makes will either be another big one, and maybe we could try and make some money off it, or it will be back to Portugal, and that'll be could be it. But yeah, for the rest of the window, it's a really I think we need a striker. You saw that yesterday with Cunha out. Not a number 9 like Strand Larsen.
Well, this is it. I want to ask you your thoughts on Jurgen Strand Larsen, because he's come in, he's got good friends. He's played with the likes of Haaland. He's been in the Norwegian international. I saw a lot of positives from him in the summer window, but like 6 games in, he's hit the post. He does cause a nuisance. Maybe he wasn't fully fit against or right against Tingy. He needs a goal, doesn't he?
Yeah, because ultimately we've signed him as our number 9, and as much as it's nice for him to be contributing to other people scoring, he needs to be the man when it's tough and maybe we're 1-1 in a game later on. He needs to be the man who puts the ball in the back of the net, because that's his job as the number 9. But I think yesterday we saw glimpses of his quality in linking up the play, which is also a big responsibility for the type of player he is. But I definitely take the point that he probably was injured, because he looked nowhere near the levels that I saw in pre-season from him. But also, I think Gary said in his post-match press conference that the team is tired too. Obviously the travelling to and from America it's tiring, but also they travelled around America a fair bit down the East Coast. So I think it's fair to say that maybe tiredness, a bit of fatigue, and and that injury just held him back a little bit. But I think there's a really good player in there, and like you said, he could be a player like Jota who scores one and then you can't stop him scoring. So, obviously everybody wants that for him.
Now, your thoughts on pre-season as a whole, the game against Raya Vallecano and Jurgen Strand Larsen?
Well, just firstly on Strand Larsen, I think we all remember when Jimenez signed, and I think I remember turning to the chap next to me saying, how's this bloke worth any more than 5 million? He's absolutely garbage. He just a bit like when Henry Kamara joined. I'm going back a little bit, but those players that they just don't hit the road running, and it takes time to adapt to the culture, the English way of playing. The Premier League's 100 miles an hour, and it's physical compared to many leagues around the world. And I think Strand Larsen's coming to the game. He's a big lad, but he's still got to adapt to the British game. So we need to give him, a dozen, probably half a dozen games. And if he hasn't scored, not to get on his back and to give him that time. There are other players in the team like Hwang and Cunha, and we've got goals amongst, we are going to miss those Neto assists, because he hit an incredible amount of assists, but we've still got goals in that team. So I think the fans just need to be patient with him and give him a bit of time. Who knows? He might bag a hat trick against Arsenal, and we can all shut up. But just give him a bit of time. In pre-season in general, it's been brilliant. I think until yesterday, we were all so excited at the way we played. That third goal, belonged in an art gallery against Leipzig. It was just a thing of absolute beauty. It's one of the best team goals. I remember there was a team goal under Nuno, which was a Jota, Jimenez, Adama type goal, which was just against Spurs, which was magnificent. It reminded me of that free flow. It was beautiful. So, more of that hopefully. And to your point, Dave, the 4 at the back might give us that more expansive play. Kilman gone gives us a bit, we're a bit quicker out of defence, so we can get that ball moving quicker. I think just on yesterday's game, Doherty was a big issue for me because everything was coming down the left. Well, it's Phil Brown again. I'll ring him back. It really is Phil Brown. I don't know if anyone could see that. There he is. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah, so
you want your diet sorted.
Oh, God's sake. I'll get you booked in. I think without Semedo and that in the fullback at the right, we really struggle to get anything going down the left. The ball gets to Doherty, check back. He just hasn't got the pace to beat anybody anymore. So everything was coming down the left, which was a bit of an issue for me yesterday. And it was disjointed. And to Louis' point, they were probably knackered after the American trip. So they weren't as sharp. They weren't quite on it as they have been, which is a shame in front of, really decent Molineux friendly crowd.
18,500.
18,500, I think, was magnificent for a insert Spanish team here sort of game because, I think the club have to try harder with these Molineux friendlies for me. They need to get a team in that everyone at least heard of to start with.
I had a conversation about this very thing. Won't say with who. but like to bring in like a, like an Atletico Madrid or someone of that ilk, you're talking about paying about them a fee of around about £1 million and a half pounds or something to bring them to come. Obviously they could put the ticket prices up for a friendly and stuff, which I didn't really want to do. So that's why we end up with your Real Betis, your Villarreals, who probably are moving up, and this Raya Vallecano. If you're like a Chelsea or a Tottenham or you're United and you've got that, it's different things. So that's where it's at, basically. But, I thought it was a bit frustrating for me because I think like a lot of us who went to the game really excited. I was like, couldn't wait. And then it was like a bit of a damp squid. It was a bit of like, that's not what I was expecting to see, but they kind of smothered us. Lewis, just finally, before we move on to Gary O'Neill's contract, your thoughts on the US tour, the pre-season and yesterday's match?
Yeah, I think, as I said, David, the kind of pre-season trips that Premier League clubs take nowadays, they are further afield than they used to go. Obviously, there's a big market for Premier League football out in the US. There's a big market out for in Asia, as they went a few years ago, and they are tiring trips. But the club has to take advantage of its commercial opportunities when it can, and that's the best time to do it. Obviously there's winter breaks, which are becoming a bit more frequent.
Winter break this year,
but not this season. Yeah, so about to say in the past few seasons. Yeah, so you've got a market there that you can take advantage of. So the pre-season opportunity is the best time, but it's always got to be in the best interest of the players. And obviously they'll be prepared for next week. There'll be no doubt that they will still suffer the same. They won't be suffering with fatigue next week because of the trip. So it's only yesterday's game, but I think overall it's a net positive. The club got a lot of exposure. There was a lot of interest in the games. A lot of fans went there from England and US fans. But you just got to be careful that it's not hurting the players.
Absolutely. And as I say, guys, if you do want to get involved in the chat, you just need to hit that subscribe button. Right. Gary O'Neill, Lewis with you first. He's signed that new contract. Just on the eve of the pre-season friendly. Positive, good. Finally glad to have that one done and dusted. Although we got some people in the chat who, you wouldn't want to go to one of their, parties because it probably be a bit sad to go. Yeah. But we're thinking he's going to be gone by Christmas again. The same people that kind of said it last year as well. What's your thoughts?
I think Wolves as a machine, if you imagine that, there's a lot of obviously parts. You've got the players, and Gary is a key part in that. To tie him down is great. It's only good news. I don't agree at all with anybody who says giving Gary O'Neill a new contract is bad for the club. He's become a real core of the club at the minute. I mean, you look at the tough times we had under Bruno Lage and Lopetegui. He's just brought some stability. And at the end of last season, we were concerned that there may be interest in him over the summer. And to just get him that tied down to that deal will protect the club and obviously protect the team. So it's only positive. There are no negatives to giving him a new deal and he's earned it as well. I think last season he was one of the lowest paid managers in the league. And that does not reflect his work. And I think, Jeff in his notes on the contract said that he's one of the hardest working coaches we've ever had or that he's ever met, something like that. And I think it's no surprise to me that he had a lot of success last season. When you put in that work that he has, he's had some success and he deserves a contract because without him, I really don't know where we would be because not many other managers, I didn't even think Gary could have done as good of a job as he did last season, but not many other managers would be able to come in a few days before the start of a season and produce the results, the performances and the finish that Gary got us to last season. Because without
it could have been higher as well had we not had all them injuries and
exactly.
The FA Cup run as well. This is why I don't understand. I do not understand the negativity from some of our fan base. You know, I can understand people getting upset about certain things, but like all the time about every little thing, it's like, oh, it's just like, why are you even supporting this club? You know, it's like if you can't give any support for anything, it's always like, I just feel like some people, and there's people in the chat on here that just they just come on to just moan. It's like, I feel sorry for them, really. I feel like, you know, they must be really, really down in the dumps that they need to come on and moan about everything. It's like they'd have so much more respect from everyone else in the chat if they actually came out with a positive every now and again. It's like someone earlier said, Dave, why are you crying over a player? I didn't say I was crying. I said I had a little tear in my eye because this is a guy that's like, you know, said how much he loved the club and, you know, and given everything. You know, if you can't be emotional, we're not robots. We're not androids. I don't know. Maybe they're bots. There might be little bots, aren't they, in the chat? That's what they are. The little negative bots that appear. It makes me laugh. It just does. Have a little bit of joy in your heart. Then, when you criticise something, people might listen to you. Otherwise, I don't know why you bother. Gary O'Neill, Nat.
I mean, what a rubbish manager. Get rid of him now. What a breath of fresh air. When Gary come in, as Louis said, it was an absolute something, insert swear word show here. It was bloody awful. You know, we were in a real predicament. And I think what we can't get scared about, I echo everything Louis said. He's hit the nail on the head, so I won't repeat any of that. But I think what we can't get too hung up on is losing our manager. We put him on a contract. It may be in the next year or two, if he shows an incredible level of success and gets this club to the giddy heights where Nuno got us to, he could be poached. That's football. That happens. We've seen it with Neto. We've seen it with Neves. You know, we've seen it with Jota. We've players come and go. Managers come and go. We'll always be at the club. So what you need to do is enjoy why he's here and enjoy the Gary O'Neill show, because I think this season could be, it's setting up to look absolutely fantastic. You know, yesterday's game, yeah, a little blip, but what I really liked was that squad depth and the fact we could bring on really good players in positions and not be scared to go for it. I think what this pre-season has shown us is that we're an attacking team. We're playing on the front foot, and that's Gary O'Neill's style of football. We may not have had that under Lopetegui. We certainly didn't have under Large. And Nuno, you know, towards the end of his tenure was far too defensive. So, yeah, all I say is enjoy why O'Neill's here. Don't worry about him going. And for those fans who do want him gone, what do they want from a team like Wolves? What are their expectations? They're obviously just far too great. You know, I remember 16, 17 seasons in the Championship. When we got to that Premier League in 2002, 2003, sitting on the coach, pinching myself, saying to my brother, can you believe we're going to be playing Man United, Man City not then, but Chelsea, these incredible teams. We're little Wolves, you know, this will be wonderful. We came straight back down because of lack of investment, but we went again. And I think there was a report today saying we are the most successful Premier League team that have come up from the Championship in recent times. So enjoy it. Enjoy what we're doing at the club. Spending, you know, who would have thought we'd be spending 30, 40, 50 million pound on players going back a few years ago? It's incredible. So, yes, all those negative naysayers. If you don't
I've got something to say actually, because like 123 North Street, he gets himself on the channel. Are different views not allowed? Not robots.
Of course they are.
I tell you what. Listen, we have people with very different views that come on this channel. If you've got anything about yourself, come and face up. Come and get on this channel. Send us a message. This goes to Paul as well. I've invited you a million times to come. I've invited him a million times to come on this channel. You know, you want to go in the chat and you want to do all your little negative drivel. Come on here. I remember Boston Brian had something to say about Neves. And I said to Brian, come on here. And he came on and he spoke. Then we had with Sutty, we had a thingy. But like they won't, will they? Because they just want to be the little bots in the chat that want to do all their negative remarks. So listen, you can come on here. I'm inviting you now. I'll even send you the link if you want the link. I'll put it in. Hold on. I'm going to put it in the chat for you now. You want to come on and have a conversation with me, Lewis, and Nat. There's the link. I dare you to come on and talk to us face to face right now and have your chat, and we'll let you talk. I bet they don't. What do you think? Do you think you'll turn up, Lewis, or not?
I'm happy to, debate is good, Dave, and having people come on with different views, it's fantastic. It's what makes your channel exciting. It's not just the 5 people saying the exact same thing. So I really encourage them to come on. I know that
they won't know, will they? Because they want to be negative in the chat, and that's fine. And we don't mind negativity. It's fine. You can be negative. You can criticize. But all they do is just moan all the time. And it's like, come on here then and moan about it and actually explain your reasons.
Well, I think that's a good point, Dave. Last season, I gave the team some of the team ratings when I came in here with 2 and 3s out of 10 because we were garbage. And I didn't mind saying that. And, but it's constructive, isn't it? I'm not just saying it for the sake of negativity's sake. There were reasons we weren't playing very well. And, came back to the fact we had lots of injuries at the time and the team was struggling. But we were rubbish. So, yeah, come on and debate if that's how we've been playing. And some of the weeks on here, some of the volatility and the anger.
Oh, absolutely. This is what I can't understand. This is what I can't understand. Oh, we're not allowed to have an opinion. Of course you can. That's what it's all about. Differing opinions. If not, we've just been, I tend to lean a little bit more on the half, the glass half full. I try to have a balance. I try to give everyone opportunity. And it really annoys me when someone comes on and says, oh, can we not have a different view? Because that's what we try to give as a platform. But but when you say to these people in the chat, oh, come on, they just disappear because they haven't got any balls to come on and actually talk about it properly. So, yeah.
Well, we've disagreed on a few points tonight, Dave, and, we're not going to have a scrap in the car park again because, you beat me to a pulp last time. Oh, I think who's frozen?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, frozen.
That was me. That's the bots not very happy. They're trying. They probably got the hackers trying to get hack in or something because we've called them out. Gary O'Neill. Anyway, finish off what you were saying, mate.
What was I saying? Yeah, I think I'd said it all. Really, just we've got to enjoy the ride. Gary's not going to be here forever. Like none of our managers are here forever. If he gets success and he moves on, then power to him. He could be the next England manager in 5-6 years' time. Who knows? But you've got to enjoy him while he's here, and you've got to get behind him. We always get behind our managers, and that's something we do really good as a club. Whether it's, Bruno Lage, who was goddamn awful. We've had a catalogue of, I'm trying to think some really awful ones over the years, but my God, we've had some, from your Dean Saunders to your Sol Backens, but you get behind them when they're here because we give them our support, and we don't wish them ill or wish the team ill, and you do get fans who come on and almost gloat when we lose because they say, well, that'll teach them, that'll hopefully get rid of them, and that's not what we're about. Just get behind your team and enjoy.
Do you know what? We'll be on extra time next week when we've lost 6-0 to Arsenal, and we'll be doom and gloom, and that's fine. And we'll literally analyse it and the thingy, or we could come on and we've beaten them 2-1 and we're going to win the league. That's how football is. You know how it is. It's like that. What I'm saying to you is there's a lot of reasons that over the summer that there's been reason for a lot of negativity and upset. The season ticket stuff especially. And I'm really, really proud of what this channel and all the other great podcasts and along with the trust and all the fans got together to get something. And they're painting the stadium, the kits come out, it's been reduced and stuff. It doesn't solve everything that's gone before, but you do what you can. Right now we're coming to the start of the Premier League season, and you've got people that are still moaning about different things and stuff like that. You've got to look forward. Whatever happens in the season, rightly or wrongly, we'll debate it each week. We'll all have our opinions on it. Gary O'Neill's, working on his system. The club have deservedly given him a new contract. And what the fans have got to do, Matt Hobbs has done a great job, in the transfer window. Everything that Hobbs has done so far, bringing in Gary O'Neill when everyone was calling him a PE teacher, and after 6 games, he was the worst manager that we'd ever had. Worse than Dean Saunders and, Terry Connor and all of this sort of stuff. And then, we beat Man City. He goes on, all of that sort of stuff. We got us to dreaming of Europe. He brought the club together. He brought the fans and the team back on side. Injuries, we tailed off. It was a we all kind of wanted the season to end when it did. The pre-season's where it is. Wasn't great at the weekend. It's a pre-season game, and I was, I rated it a performance of 5. Now all that stops. We have to trust in the process of the transfer window that they're going to bring in some more players. Guaranteed there's players going to be coming in. They've said it. They're aiming to do that. There'll probably be 2, 3, maybe even 4. There'll be probably some that'll go out. I always said if we're stronger at the end of the transfer window than we went into it, it's a good transfer window. It's a very, very difficult start to the season. Make no bones about it. Playing a back 5, playing a back 6, playing a back 10, whatever it is, or going all out attack. It's always going to be a difficult start to the season because the first 9 games are difficult. If we've got 7, 8, 9 points after the first 9 games, we're in a decent position, So you've got to stick and you've got to hold your nerve. When all about you, are losing theirs. That famous poem by Kipling. When all about you, people are losing their nerve. If you can hold your nerve under those type of pressure situations, we've seen it in the Olympics this week about people holding their nerve under incredible pressure. You'll come through it. We've got to, as fans right now, back the manager, back the players, and get behind them because they need our support now. And that's what we need to do over the next 9 games. Lewis, your thoughts on the Premier League season ahead? Tough start. Your thoughts on Arsenal next week?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough season, Dave. I think, we spoke about it when we were speaking about the transition from back 5 to back 4. It's going to be tough, but I think there's a lot to be optimistic about. It's a tough start, as you said, but I think this team has showed that it's got enough quality to go on and beat the big sides and probably struggle against the lesser sides in some games where we think, we should be trying to win these. But obviously Arsenal, I think they will be at their best next week. I think that it's, I know you said that you think it's a good time to play them. For me, I think the first game is probably the first and last. It might be the worst time to play them, but I think that we can certainly go there and we can win. It's unlikely, but we turn up with an attitude that we can win every game, and maybe we can. We'll see next week.
Well, guys, if you're on the podcast listening to this, you might have heard a little beep in the background because we got my good friend, Cheerful Chris, that's appeared and clearly wants to have a few words. He can't keep off the channel, even when it's his week off.
Dave, you said you wanted something negative to come on. So
that's why you
thought it was a personal invite for me.
Yeah, go on. What would you like to say, Chris?
I think people are getting a little bit confused with start of the season, O'Neill and his contract. Gary O'Neill should have a new contract. He's done fantastic. The circumstances around him not having a squad at the start of last year were not of his making. And to be honest, if he doesn't have a squad at the end of this transfer window, that won't be of his making either. It's the owners, and that's why people are negative, because I think people are still on this downer because, as you mentioned, the tickets and all that sort of stuff. Proof's in the pudding, and that's what Fosun have got to try and realise, that they've got to put their money where their mouth is, because they've done that. Although, if you do the maths, they've actually had far more money back now than they've spent at Wolves through transfers, which is quite a lot more. But it's this is a crunch season. It's a really make or break summer, and they need to make some additions. Yeah, I got a bit frustrated with what people were saying in the channel, so I thought, not these lads, but
go on, Lewis.
So I really I'd never heard about the article that Nat had referenced earlier, and he said that Wolves are the most successful side to be promoted in recent times. And obviously, I understand, especially last summer, the unrest at the club because of what the owners did with the ticket prices. But what more would you have wanted the owners to do then make Wolves the most successful recently promoted side, because we had so much success, especially in the first couple of seasons after getting promoted. What more would you have had the owners do?
I think you'd have to question what the definition of success is, because Leicester were promoted and they won the league. So I don't think. I think you've got to look at the definitions of it. I just want us to have a very good pre-season without any disruption, without any late selling of players, and I'm starting to get worried that I'm hoping that we don't get rid of anybody else, but I think they will. And it's just too late now. We're not giving Gary a chance. We're trying to get him to manage the side with half a hand behind his back, and really, I think that's where some of the negativity comes from.
I don't buy into that narrative, Chris, because I don't think we're getting Gary to manage a club with a hand behind his back. Because last season, yeah, I agree with that, because he came in with 3 days. He was dealt with what he had to deal with. Julian Lopetegui walked out on this team. Apparently, one of the most elite managers in the world. Well, if you're that, to me, I've always said we don't know exactly what was said there, but it caused a lot of division between the fan base. And Gary's had to build all of that up. And if you're an elite manager, you can manage any team. You should be able to deal. And Gary O'Neill proved that even with the hand that he was dealt last year, he got us playing great, good football, looking forward, cup run. We learned a lot from that cup run. Then we had the decimation with all the injuries and we fell away. And he hasn't had a pre-season. This year he's had a pre-season. He's got his new contract, which he's deserved. Within the first week of the transfer window, they've signed Tommy Doyle. They've bought in Rodrigo Gomez. They've bought in Pedro Lima. They've bought in a number 9 in Jurgen Strand-Larsen. We've got Yerson Mosquera back off loan. We've got Chiquinho back. We've got Geddes back. That's 7 players, Chris. We've sold Max Kilman, who most people were like, yeah, okay, that's good. 40,000 to 40 million. And Pedro Neto, most people last year were saying, I'd sell him for 40 million because he's always injured. I mean, we've bought in, we've got 7 players that have come back into the squad, and 2 major ones have gone out, and they've already said that they're going to bring in 2 or 3 more. I agree with you.
Fine, Dave.
Can't afford a Ryan Neri or a Joe Gomez or a Mateus Cunha. That's it for me. I said at the end of last season, we'll accept 1, we'll accept 2, but not 3 major ones. And I don't think we're going to be unless someone comes in with an 80 or 90 million pound bid for someone like Joe Gomez, we're not selling him. Or Ryan's the same.
Yes, Dave, but we're trying to change our squad playing style, and we haven't got the right player.
Which is why they bought
you discussed.
Yeah, but
they discussed it. We need 2 fullbacks, not wing backs.
Do you not think they're going to bring in a fullback?
Yeah, but if we were going to change fundamentally how we played, I would have liked to have seen that back 4 start the pre-season and have got those in. I don't understand why, if we were going to change, yes, I get we would maybe see how players would do, but Gary's seen these players. He knows that Aït-Nouri and Semedo are not going to be fullbacks. If we're going to change to a back 4 and bring Yerson in, and he thinks Yerson and Totti are his centre-back partnership, I have my doubts, then he needed to buy those 2 fullbacks. And I'm not sure we shouldn't be doing it now, Dave.
What about Pedro Lima?
Well, he looks like Ryan Aït-Nouri on the right hand side. Unfortunately, great going forward, but I'm not so sure he's going to be great defensively. Some of the games in America, he was being run rings round. I know there's no goals came from it, but his defense.
Nathan, what's your take? I mean, Chris is basically making the point, and he makes his points, fair enough. But it's not that easy just to bring in these players right at the start of the window. We bought in 3 plus a signing, and then obviously they all go away. They come back. That's why it runs till the end of August. It's not that easy. It's like dominoes moving around, isn't it? And you've got to have the money to do it. And Wolves have money to do it now. What's your take? Do you think that Raya Aït-Nouri and Nelson Semedo, and same to you, Lewis, can't play as a fullback?
I think to Chris's point, he has got a valid point about Aït-Nouri and Semedo. I think they are obviously more wing backs, and we bought those players for financial reasons at the end of July. They were bought in because we needed to financially. They were the right times. And with Semedo, we're trying to get his contract run down because he's probably one of the most expensive players on the books at Wolves. And I think as good as he was last season, he's not a right back, and I don't think he can play in a 4. So for me, that is one of the positions they're going to look at. Lima and Aït-Nouri could, at the moment, try out that left back position and see who can win in that battle. But I think we do need some competition on the right for Semedo, some proper good, really experienced. We've tried in the past with sort of bit part players, and it hasn't really worked. But to your point, Dave, there are clubs at the moment that haven't even signed anybody. The likes of Liverpool, and it is a domino effect. You can't just do all your business straight away. That's not how we never do in a transfer window. No clubs do. So it'd be very unusual if Gary O'Neill had made 5 or 6 signings and we were done, and that was it before the start of the season. Never happens, does it? You have to see what's available throughout August and then make some decisions then. So I think it will change. I don't think by Christmas Semedo will be the right back. I think it will have to change for that 4 to work, because otherwise, and I'm a bit like Chris with Mosquera and Totti. I'm not convinced they're the two. I know you are, Dave, but for me,
I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm convinced. I'm not convinced. I'm saying I'm liking what I've seen so far. I feel quite positive from what I've seen. I'm still yet to be convinced, because they've got to do it in the real league, and then we'll find out. Lewis, do you want to come in on all of that?
I think with Aït-Nouri and Semedo, I understand that they are attacking fullbacks. They're not defensive fullbacks, and their strengths going forward are far superior to their strengths defensively. I think maybe what could work well is you have one or the other. I don't know how well they can coexist in a side. I think if you had, for example, Aït-Nouri on the left, maybe I would be more inclined to have a defensive fullback on the right who is more capable and not and somebody who isn't as attacking as Nelson, because I agree we can become exposed, especially if both have gone up high. I mean, Liverpool are the only side I can think of in recent times who pushed both fullbacks so high and remained very strong defensively, and that's a result of their fantastic centre backs in Van Dijk and whoever was playing with him at the time, and their great holding midfield player in Fabinho, who's now left. But so I can understand that kind of concern that exists. So maybe if we were to sign one more fullback, which I think everybody expects us to, maybe I wouldn't look for an attacking one. And I would look for somebody who's a bit more defensive, maybe, as Nat said, a bit more experienced. But it might have to be that they're on the left-hand side, because at the minute we have 3 right backs in Doherty, Lima, and Nelson. And I saw Nelson go out to the left-hand side yesterday, and I wasn't really convinced by him. I think he's a natural right-footed. He's definitely right-footed. He's a natural right back. His strength is there. And as you said, Nat, he's in the final year of his contract, and a high contract as well. So there has to be a decision made sooner rather than later. I think I expect us to sign one more, and if it was me, I would sign a more defensive fullback, just to offer us that stability.
And then would you bring in another centre back as well?
If it was me, Dave, I would do the same thing as what I said on those transfer videos we did. I would probably sign a younger centre back, because I still expect Dawson to probably play at least half the games. I know I don't like rotation too much at the back in the season if you can avoid it, but I still expect Dawson to be ahead of Totti in the bigger games, especially. I probably expect Dawson to play against Arsenal next week. So if it was me, I would bring in a younger centre back, because I don't see the capacity for a kind of a leader of a centre back to come and play. Because you've got
Hugo Bueno is a bit of a younger centre back as well, because he's not very old either, is he?
Well, that's the thing, Dave. You've got at the club Dawson, Bueno, Totti, and Yerson. If you add another top centre back, you've got too many to play, and they're not going to be happy. A top centre back's going to want to come in and play. So for me, we sign a younger centre back who's going to offer a bit more cover, and then next season when Dawson leaves, which I expect him to, that's when we go in on a big centre back, and we really try and provide the core to our defence. And I know fans won't really like that, but I just don't see how this summer it's possible, because we were never going to sell Dawson. But if we don't sell Dawson, I don't see us replacing him. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we've got over 600 of you watching live now. So if you're enjoying this, wherever you're watching on it, hit that like button. As I say, if you want to get involved in the conversation before we finish the last part of the show now, just hit the subscribe button. I want to give Chris the opportunity to come back on all of that now.
Yeah, it's one man's water, another man's wine, isn't it? That's what we're talking about here. That's what football is about. We used to do it in the pub, this kind of discussion. Now we do it online. The other issue that I think the back four's creating us at the moment with, and you mentioned it before, Lamina and Doyle dropping in as a quarterback, I think it's taken away something out of our midfield, to be honest. I think they're coming too deep, a bit like Nevis was doing at one point at Wolves, where he was virtually playing the centre half. So I'd like to see them get further forward. The back four's supposed to bring us further forward in that respect, and I don't really think it's worked that well, apart from the friendlies where Leipzig, really, I'm not quite sure they came to play, to be honest. They just thought they'd have a bit of a go, and they were somewhat behind our preparation, I think. But yeah, it's just how you see the game. The other thing that worries me about the two centre halves is they seem incapable of dealing with long balls in the air, and it's been there was one or two on Saturday that they struggled to get down. That worries me. Not that you see a lot of long ball stuff in the Premier League, but you've got some big guys that will get the ball in the air, and if they struggle with that side of the game, I know they're both fast and very capable all over the ground, but that's another worry of mine.
David Mills says Chris is correct. If we're going to change the system, you need to start in pre-season. Well, David, that's exactly what's happened. He's played this system every single game in pre-season, so I'm not sure what your point is on that. If you could expand on it, because they have been playing this way all pre-season. Look, I think it's going to be interesting to see, because at the end of the day, I'll get your points in regards to the midfield. I'll say I've watched all the games during pre-season, and it was something that we picked up very early on, that Lamina was dropping right in. They were spreading out, and he was dropping right back to pick the ball up. And when Doyle came on at half-time in the Leipzig game, he did exactly the same thing. So this is something they're working on in training. It's what they're working on. There is a reason for that, because obviously Gary O'Neill's got this system. They've obviously explained to why it is. They don't just stay there. They pick the ball up, he gets it going, or they spreads it, and then he moves forward. So you've got to have a bit of an engine in that midfield to do that. I don't see it as a negative system personally, or taking anything away from midfield, if it gets the sort of goals that we saw us scoring against West Ham and against Leipzig. The problem that I worry about is when I want us to solve the problem of breaking teams down that sit this year. I think that's been an Achilles heel for Wolves, and I think this is why Gary's changing to this back four. But I do think he's got the full back of the back three, because we played it a lot last year, and we might have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And if we've got that and they all understand it, then that's positive. I do expect, Lewis, that he's going to start with Totti Gomez and some Mascara next week, because he started them for the last two pre-season games. So I think I said before we went to the game, it was going to be very interesting to see who started in the back two on Saturday, because that sort of gives you an indication of where we're going. So I don't think they did anything wrong at the weekend. So I think they'll start. Dawson is an experienced head to come on if need be. If we were leading and he needs to change it to a back three, I can see Dawson will come on for something like that. It's going to be very interesting, isn't it, guys? We're about 5 minutes out from finishing. So if you've got any direct questions that you want to ask us before we finish, Nathan, just want to shout
Dave,
away.
Dave, I'm going to drop off. I just seen people typing in there that Gary O'Neill should have a new contract, and I got a bit cheesed off, and I've cut my lip shaving. I was that infuriated. That's why I rang in. So I'm
no problem, mate. Thanks for coming on. Welcome. So, if you've got any final questions for me, Nat or Lewis, just drop them down in the next 2 or 3 minutes. Nat and Lewis, Arsenal next week, score prediction.
Tough one for me, Dave. I think, before yesterday, I might have been a bit more buoyant and a bit more optimistic, but I think it'll be close, but I can see it being a 1 or a 2-0 loss next week.
A 1 or a 2-0 loss?
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Lewis.
Go on, go on.
No, I was only going to say, I don't want to be proven right with the Dawson thing. I don't want to come on next week or one of the subsequent weeks going, I told you so, Dave, with Dawson. He should have played. I'm not going to be one of those, but I do think Dawson, we saw it when he had Haaland in his pocket with Man City. He's such a good, experienced central defender, and I don't want, I get the Mosquera and the Totti thing, and it's one for the future, but I think it needs to be bedded in, and I still think Dawson should have a place in that back four.
Fine, fair play. Lewis?
As I said, Dave, I think for me, playing Arsenal on the first game with the hunger that they're going to bring into this season is the worst time to play them. That they're going to want to get off to the best start possible to get ahead in the title race, even in August. So I think that it's only, we certainly can win. We can pick up points. But for me, they're going to just be too focused on the ultimate goal for them, which is to finally get that Premier League title come May. So I'm going to go, I think we'll score, but I think it's going to be 3-1.
3-1. Right, so we've got a question here. Would you start Lima over Sarabia? No, they don't really play in the same positions, to be fair. So, no. Line-up for Arsenal. Well, I think it'll be very similar to what started yesterday. There might be a couple of personnel changes. I think hopefully we'll see Kuna on the bench. I don't think he'll start. Obviously, Semedo's definitely got to start. So I think what you saw at the weekend is going to be very close to what starts at Arsenal. A few people want David's going 1-1, 4-1. And a thinky face. Well, I don't know whether it means Arsenal. Daniel's going for a 2-1 to Wolves there. So there you go. As regards to someone's just asked where we're gonna finish at the end of the season, Patrick. All I can tell you, I'll be asking Nathan and Lewis at the end of this. I need to have a quick chat with them at the end because I haven't sent them a message about this. But you'll in the next couple of days you'll see a predictions video coming out, so stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't, the bell notification. Richard's going for 10th here. North Street's going for 4th and bottom, but at least he ain't going for relegation. Fair play for that. 1-1 or a 2-1 win, 2-2 draw. Here's a question from David. We'll go with Lewis first. How many points first 5 games?
I'm just pulling up the fixtures, Dave, just to go through. I think Arsenal have predicted a loss. Chelsea, I think we can definitely pick up points. So could be a win, could be a draw. Forest away is tough. I thought we were quite lucky last season. We had good moments, and Acunha's goal was fantastic. But Forest away is tough. Newcastle and Villa. So maybe
there's the first 5 fixtures.
Let me see. So I think that we will get. I'm going to go 6, Dave. 6 points.
6 points. Okay, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? Nat?
It's like nearly the same. I'll go for 5. I think we'll. I don't think we'll get anything from Arsenal. Points against Chelsea. I think we can go to Forest and win. Points against Newcastle and that's your 5, isn't it? So, and I think a loss against Villa, who I think are going to be tremendously strong this season. So, yeah, I think we'll couple of draws and a win out of the 5 and a couple of losses. So, 5 points, first 5 games, I think is decent given the type of fixtures we've got to start with.
A few here that are going for 7 or 8 points. Neil's going for 0 points. It's almost like Eurovision. So yeah, 8 points, 7 points. Right, guys, listen, we've done. It's been great tonight. We've had over 600 of you watching most of the way through. I know loads of you watch it back on catch up. You'll leave your thoughts in the as you're watching it back on the comments. If you've subscribed tonight, thank you very much. If you've liked the video, I really appreciate that. It lets YouTube know you're introducing, you're enjoying it. And again, I just want to say thanks to Creation Wolf for supporting us, and really appreciate all of their help. The link's in the description there, www.creationwolf.com. And yeah, if you want to come on the channel during the extra time fan zone, any of you are more than welcome to come on and give your views. We invite anyone. There is no one that is denied, as long as you don't swear. And you put your views across. You can say what you want, and we can debate and discuss and go. That kicks in. The phone-in show kicks in next week. Just email admin@alwayswolves.co.uk. Messages on Always Wolves Facebook, Always Wolves Twitter /X, Always Wolves Instagram, Always Wolves TikTok. You want to come on, we'll tell you how to do it. The fan zone starts from next week. Extra time is back Sunday night. And that's going to be a good one, because we will really get an idea on everything next week. Because let's face it, Arsenal are wanting that title this year, as Lewis says. They are hungry for it. They've missed out the last couple of years. They're going to be hungry like the wolf. Are they going to give us a mauling, or are our wolf pack going to surprise them and give them a little nip that they weren't expecting? All will be revealed in the next week. Big build-up to that. Stay tuned for all the content. And until the next one, from myself, Lewis, and Nat, Always Wolves, thanks for joining us tonight.
Cheers.